Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have vowed to take away your Second Amendment rights through gun bans, gun confiscation, and government regulations. Now, Joe Biden is no longer hiding his real intentions, and we need you to take action now.
Whether it's a 9mm pistol or whether it's a rifle, is ridiculous. I'm continuing to push to eliminate the sale of those things. But
the Biden administration is coming after your right to own any gun, and we need you to text PROTECT2A to 888-762-0221. Joe Biden has already issued executive orders. He is now demanding Congress push through radical gun legislation. You can fight back to stop Joe Biden's gun grab, but you must text PROTECT2A to 888-762-0221. Take action to protect your right to keep and bear arms. We urgently need millions of Americans to text PROTECT2A to 888-762-0221. Text PROTECT2A to 888-762-0221.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Daily Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, a bit of a new face, Guy Relford. Guy is the voice behind the Gun Guy on WIBC out of Indianapolis, Indiana. That airs on Saturdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Guy, thanks for coming by today, man.
Oh, man, Paul, I'm excited to be here with you. I'm a big fan of the Second Amendment Foundation and the good work you're doing, so it's an honor to be here on your show.
Thank you very much. Let's get started today. Normally, and for our regular viewers and podcast listeners, normally today, Alex Uli is on with us. Guy is very capable of filling this shoes. Guy is an attorney himself, works on Second Amendment law, and is active in Indiana. And Guy, if you would, you started something in Indiana called the 2A Project. Before we get into Indiana politics and what's going on with constitutional carry in Indiana, and bit of a spoiler alert for the rest of the show, it's not dead yet. It may be on life support, but she ain't dead yet. What is the 2A Project?
Well, the 2A Project is a gun rights organization really focused on uncompromising support of the Second Amendment. I had real concern about the NRA in particular. I'm a benefactor life member of NRA. We need a strong, functional, well-funded NRA. Our local representatives here in Indiana over the years have been fantastic and have accomplished great things for gun owners. But with the state of the NRA at the national level, and recognizing that we didn't want to lose any ground, we didn't want to lose any traction, we didn't want to lose any momentum on Second Amendment issues here in Indiana, I wanted to start a grassroots organization that was separately formed, separately independently funded, where we can be a force in Indiana and beyond, not just in fending off the constant attacks that we see on the Second Amendment, but in supporting pro-2A legislation here in Indiana and beyond. We want to go well beyond that. Again, that's why I'm such a fan of the Second Amendment Foundation and Alan Gottlieb and some of the incredible work they've done. They've been successful in legislatures. They've been effective in courtrooms. And we really want to be, a complementary organization to those efforts, focused first in Indiana, but then beyond and at the national level as well. That's why we did it. It's taken off. We've got a lot of supporters. We've got some financial resources, and we want to be a force in politics to defend Second Amendment rights.
Well, and I'm going to say I thought last year constitutional carry was kind of going to happen, and then it got to the Senate and it died fast. This year, it got a lot farther along, and then it looked like died. But it's, as I teased earlier, it's not totally dead yet. I got a email today that there's still some life, that there is, and if I see if I can find it here again fast, a Senate Bill 209 that is still alive and going to a conference committee. My understanding is that could bring constitutional carry to the Hoosier state.
Yes, and I think we're going to end up with what we've been asking for several years, which is a vote in the Indiana Senate, up or down on the floor, where every senator, all 50 of them, has a vote, yes or no. And that's what we want, because we want accountability among our legislators. You know, what has happened too many times in Indiana is that, you know, the House has been great. We fly through the House. We pass it overwhelmingly, as we did last year, just like we did this year. Gets over to the Senate, and we have some folks in the Senate who like to campaign on the Second Amendment. They like to fundraise on the Second Amendment. They like to tout, you know, their membership in NRA or the fact that they own guns. But then what they want to do is back behind closed doors in these private, secret caucus meetings among the Republican caucus. They want to kill it and not give it an up or down vote, purely to avoid accountability back to their constituents, purely to avoid responsibility back to the voters in their districts, so that they can tell you they support it and then blame its demise on everybody else other than them. It's a system designed to allow legislators to lie to their voters, and there's no other way to describe it. They want to say, "Oh, I supported it back in that caucus meeting, and I was in there fighting for you, but boy, those other people killed it." And that's what we don't like. We don't like the idea of these private, secret, off-the-record caucus meetings that determine the fate of important legislation. And I think that's what has made the difference this year, because after that happened to us last year, I mean, consider this, Paul. We had 21 co-sponsors for constitutional carry last year in the Senate. There are only
there's only how many senators?
30. Well, there's 50 senators. There are only 39 Republicans. So we had 21 co-sponsors. And it goes back to a caucus meeting where it was very much alive. It comes out of that caucus meeting dead. So if there was an up or down vote among those 39 Republicans, at least two people who were co-sponsors and Republicans had to vote against the bill in caucus, so that they can go back to their constituents and say, "Oh, look at me. I was a co-sponsor. I was fighting for your constitutional rights, for your Second Amendment rights. And those other people killed it." At the same time, by definition, at least two of them had to have voted to kill it in caucus. That's deceptive. That's a lie. And not to get too much on the soapbox, but, you know, I go right back to the Declaration of Independence, that everybody likes to talk about, you know, that all men are created equal and they're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the part that everybody focuses on in the Declaration of Independence, although our current president has a little trouble getting that out sometimes. But what I like to focus on are the words right after that. And that is, after they talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. The consent of the governed. You know, and you know what this means. I know what this means. This means that when I vote for someone in office, I'm consenting to them to go govern on my behalf. That's a representative democracy. That's a republican, a constitutional republic, which is what we have. When they go back in these private caucus meetings, and I have no idea what my elected representative did behind those closed doors, you know, on my behalf, how do I possibly either give or withhold my consent for what they did on my behalf when I don't know what they did? Because it's secret. It's done in caucus. There was no public vote. And that's why, and we went after that. I've been very vocal on the radio. I've been very vocal on television. I've been very vocal in publications from the 2A Project, and a whole bunch of people who may not even have the Second Amendment as a priority, you know, in terms of their legislative wish list, who jumped on that bandwagon and said, this is not okay. We're not okay with private, secret, you know, unaccountable caucus meetings and caucus decisions being made out of the public eye. We want to vote. And that registered, and I think it's registered with the Senate, and that's why we can go through the process. But that's why when our bill got hijacked in committee by, and again, this is where the term rhino is perfectly well suited and well earned, is when it got hijacked in committee and amended into something completely different in the Judiciary Committee in the Senate to avoid a vote on the floor. Senate leadership said, "Oh no, we're not doing this again. We need to give it a public vote because these people are, you know, these people, meaning pro-Constitution advocates, myself and others, are going to be right back in the spotlight saying they did it to us again. They did it behind closed doors. They're trying to avoid a public vote. We need to give this a vote on the floor of the Senate." And that's why constitutional carry is still alive. And I think we're going to get that this year. My prediction And I've been naive before in being naively optimistic, but I think we're going to get a vote on the floor of the Senate. I really do. And we'll have an up or down vote. And look, if senators vote against it, so be it. At least we'll have a vote and we'll be able to say, these are the people that voted with us. These are the people that voted against us. And one of the goals and the objectives of the two-way project is to go right back to those people's districts and say, here's how your senator voted. Are you okay with that or are you not? Now you get to either give or withhold that consent of the governed in their next election and decide how you feel about how your senator voted on your behalf. That's not too much to ask. That's our whole system of government.
Amen. Amen. Now, one of the things I've been hearing from the very beginning about Indiana is that Governor Holcomb campaigned on gun rights, and yet he has went to some of his friends in the Senate and say, look, I want to run for U.S. Senate. I don't want to have to either sign or veto constitutional carry. I don't want any part of this. Don't send this to me. And that's why it's been dying in the Senate last year and this year, why it hasn't got to him. And it is, I mean, I know you don't, you may not have sources that close to the governor, but is that your understanding as well?
Oh yeah. And listen, I fundraised for candidate Eric Holcomb before he was governor. He came on my show and I was very excited, again, probably naively, but I was very excited because in part, his wife, Janet Holcomb, who I consider a good friend, she's an NRA certified firearms instructor, as I am. She's a competitive shooter. I shoot sporting clays with the First Lady. She's someone who has gone on elk hunts in Montana and gone on hog hunts in Texas, shooting feral hogs with an AR from a helicopter. I mean, she's true blue and she walks the walk. And I was very excited about the idea of having a governor of Indiana with a first lady who was that committed and that true to Second Amendment principles. And I went to fundraisers where we shot sporting clays and I gave speeches on behalf of Eric Holcomb. Unfortunately, he's not lived up to that billing and has not supported constitutional carry. In fact, the most vocal advocate against constitutional carry last year and this year has been the Indiana State Police Superintendent, Doug Carter, and Doug is on Eric Holcomb's cabinet. I mean, Eric Holcomb is his boss, and you can't say that he's in wearing his uniform and his badge and his gun, testifying as he has multiple times in committee hearings, not only testifying against it, but being completely over the top. I mean, saying things like, you're going to kill state police officers that work for me, if you vote for constitutional carry. He's called senators and said, my daughter's a state trooper and I fear for her safety if you pass constitutional carry. He's gone so over the top in his advocacy against constitutional carry. There's no way he does that, not in his official capacity as superintendent of state police, unless he's speaking for Eric Holcomb. So what we did, we reached out. We have a great partner in the Indiana State Rifle and Pistol Association, and their president, Charlie Hill-Toonen, is a good friend of mine. We also shoot sporting clays together. And together we went to the governor's office and we say, look, you have your superintendent of state police coming to these committee hearings, advocating incredibly strongly, in fact, way over the top, in fact, exaggerating facts and with no real statistical support for the idea that constitutional carry endangers police officers. What conclusion can we draw other than he's speaking for you when he's advocating against constitutional carry? And eventually, here probably 3 weeks ago, we got confirmation directly from his staff that no, Superintendent Carter is speaking for the governor when he is opposing constitutional carry. There it is. And I was the first one to publish an article that confirmed that. And that's out there and that's undeniable. We got that directly from his staff. So we're not being unfair to him in portraying that. We got that confirmation directly from him. So now, I mean, everyone believes, everyone in Indiana who's connected to the political process believes he wants to run for U.S. Senate since he's termed out as governor. He can't run again. A lot of speculation that he wants to run for Senator Mike Braun's seat in the U.S. Senate, and then Braun would run for governor So they would essentially swap seats. And now he looks at that and says, hold on, how are my prospects in a Republican primary for Senate in Indiana, a squarely red state, if I vetoed constitutional carry? That's an important decision for him to make relative to his political future. He clearly would like to avoid that altogether, which goes right back to your point, which is dead on, that he would like it to simply die without a vote and never reach his desk, so he doesn't have to make that decision.
Well, and here's some hope to those of you in Indiana. Day before yesterday, Ohio, over the Mike DeWine in Ohio did not want constitutional carry to reach his desk. Now if he wants to get reelected, he has no choice but to sign it. He's got two very strong people that are hoping to primary him, and they will if he vetoes constitutional carry. It's on its way to his desk, should be there in the next day or two.
I saw that just today, that's where that is in Ohio. And, hey, they're our neighbor right immediately to the east. And that's got to influence the thinking here in Indiana. And we have a couple of things going for us here in Indiana based on our state constitution that are going to bear into this equation before the end of the day. One is that the General Assembly, our legislature, can override a veto with a mere majority. We only need a majority in both the House and the Senate, the same majority required to pass it to begin with, to override a veto. Secondly, a law can become, a bill, I should say, can become law in Indiana without the governor's signature if he simply does nothing for a certain period of time. So he may likely, and there's a lot of speculation this could happen if it lands on his desk. And again, call me naive, in a month from now, if this is all a pipe dream, I think it will land on his desk, and he can allow it to become law without his signature. And that way he doesn't have to face the repercussions of vetoing it, but he can still go back to folks like his police superintendent of the state police and say, well, I didn't sign it. That was my silent protest for having it become law. But at the end of the day, if he decides to veto it, and still wants to to become a senator from Indiana and win a Republican primary, having vetoed constitutional carry in a very squarely red state. I keep saying, in my best Liam Neeson accent, good luck.
Yeah. When you were talking earlier about, and I don't think I've ever said this on the air. I've said it privately, but I don't know if I've ever said it on the air. When you're talking things that happen in private, several years ago when body cams started going out to police, after the whole, the police are running roughshod, we need to keep track of police, we're going to put body cams on police. All of a sudden, police brutality claims started just dropping. I'm wondering if it isn't time we start making our politicians, whenever they start doing government work, let's make politicians wear body cams. Let's get their work on the record. We're paying them, right? They're accountable to us. Let's see what they do every day. I would bet the quality of work they put in for us would skyrocket.
That is brilliant, and I've never heard that said before or advocated, and I love that. To know what your elected official says in the hallways, what they say in these private caucus meetings, what they say, over lunch with their colleagues. If they're doing our business, then why shouldn't we, as the people who vote for or them or withhold, have the option of withholding our vote? Why shouldn't we know what they're doing on our behalf? And the analogy to police officers, I think is fantastic. And I think the accountability factor, again, that comes right back to our discussion earlier, which is that's simply being accountable for your actions. And, and back to on the same point, Paul, and it's really an important one, and that is that, I've had local politicians, people on city council, for instance, come and say, you know what, if we've got an important, ordinance that we're considering in a city council here in Indiana, and if we go convene a meeting where any members of that city council, or certainly if a majority go and let's say they go have lunch and they sit around the lunch table and they have a discussion over what they're going to do on behalf of their constituents, and that's not a public meeting with public oversight and visibility, that's a violation of the law in Indiana. That's a violation of our Open Records Act, or our Sunshine Law, a lot of people call it. They're committing they're violating the law if they go do that. Yet at the state level, things are organized as such. They can go back in these private caucus meetings and determine the complete fate of an important bill like constitutional carry, and nobody has any idea what they did. That would be a violation of the law if a local government did it, yet somehow we allow our state representatives to do it, state legislators. That's not okay. That's not okay, and that's a system we got to fix.
And in my home state of South Dakota, I cannot. I know my state senator. I cannot take my state senator out, buy him a cup of coffee, or if I go out shooting, I cannot invite my state senator, my House representative along with me, hand them my gun and let them shoot with my ammo, because they are getting a benefit off my, I'm paying for it and they're getting a benefit, and I can't, and that's illegal in South Dakota.
Isn't that interesting? And, the fact that we have those kinds of protections, yet allow the kind of shenanigans we do here in Indiana, that's not okay. And that's something we got to fix. But I think we have kind of a tacit admission that legislators are facing a lot of heat, and they acknowledge the fault in that system because Senate leadership. And here's where I give President Pro Tem of the Senate, Roderick Bray, a lot of credit this year. He's not necessarily been our friend on constitutional carry in the past, and he clearly played a role in killing it last year. But this year, I give him a lot of credit because I think he has specifically decided the public, the voters deserve a public vote on constitutional carry. And I think that's exactly the reason it's still alive today. And currently, as of today, just 10 minutes before I came on here with you, I was emailing back and forth with some of the conferees on amendments they're trying to make and whether that's okay and whether they're not. And it's very much alive. And I think we'll get a vote on the floor of the Senate.
So when does the legislative season wrap up in Indiana? When do things have to be done?
March 14th in terms of the regular session. And so really next week is when all this is going to happen. Here we are, after 6 Eastern time on a Friday. Next week, Monday or Tuesday, is when the votes have to start happening on the floor. It's still, to the extent it's been amended from the language that passed the House, the agreed upon conference committee report with the amended bill has to get through the Senate and go back over and be approved by the House. That all has to happen essentially next week. And then get to the governor's desk. Now, the good news is we really don't run out of time for the legislature to get together and override a veto, because they always set a few days to reconvene after the regular session to look at perhaps needing to make some technical change in a bill that's already become law, or after the sine die date, I think they call it, they still get together. So we may, depending on what Governor Holcomb does, still have an opportunity to override a veto after March 14th. But in terms of the votes that we need to even get that far and get it onto the desk of the governor, that's all going to happen by the 14th.
Okay. So we're looking at, by the middle of the week, we should know for sure if it's going to happen in Indiana this year.
Yeah, we'll know whether it's got a pulse or not very early, or at least, as you say, by midweek next week. And again, I've been naively optimistic before, but I think we're going to get it there.
Very cool. That would make, depending on how quickly things happen in Ohio, that would make you guys probably 23, or, if things happen very quickly in Georgia or Alabama, maybe 23, 24, 25, somewhere in there. But we're looking at down possibly this year, half of the states numerically being constitutional carry states, and that's an awesome thing, man.
Yeah, it is. And people ask me sometimes why I'm so passionate about it. I mean, I have a lifetime license to carry handgun in Indiana. I don't ever have to go apply for another license. We're, I think, the only, or perhaps one of 2 states that have a lifetime license, and we've had that for a number of years. And people say, gosh, Guy, you've got your lifetime license. Why do you care? And that's an easy answer for me. And that is because I want to live in a state where you don't have to go beg permission from the government to exercise a pre-existing constitutional freedom, not given to us by government, but protected by constitutions, both at the federal level through the Second Amendment. But our Indiana Constitution, Article 1, Section 32, is elegant in its simplicity, where it says the people shall have the right to bear arms for the protection of themselves and the state. And hey, if the Constitution says I have a right, I don't have to go beg the government for permission to exercise that right. That's a big deal to me, and that's why I'm going to remain passionate until we get this done.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I want to add one thing to that. I don't have to go give up part of my hard-earned money to the state for their permission to be able to exercise that right.
Couldn't agree more. That's how I've described a license or a permit for several years. Is a permit is simply the process by which the government sells back to you a right you already had. Mm-hmm. And that's not okay. That's not okay. And that's what we're trying to fix.
All right. Well, we're just about out of time for the time we have today. Guy, before we take off, could you tell everybody about your radio show? And that's coming up tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I've got a show called The Gun Guy Show, The Gun Guy with Guy Relford. That's Saturdays, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time on WIBC in Indianapolis. You can listen to it from anywhere at WIBC.com. You can listen live. And I have a page on WIBC.com, the Gun Guy page, where you can listen to podcasts going back, I think, years. I'm approaching my 8th year of having that show where we advocate for constitutional rights, and a lot of people who are gun owners or just care about constitutional freedoms generally like to tune in. So yeah, I'd love to have people tune in and check out the 2A Project too, which is just the2aproject.com. We're a 501c4, so we can be involved politically, and that's exactly what we do, and we're going to be a force in Indiana and beyond.
Very cool. Well, Guy, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with us, man.
Paul, man, it's an honor to be here. Big fan of yours and of the Second Amendment Foundation. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you.
All right. Folks, I do want to remind you that tomorrow we've got the Weekly Bullet, and come join us at noon Central Time. We're going to be doing our Week in Review show tomorrow. And if I can get that tab pulled up, and there it is, I've got Matt Mallory of Meet the Pressers, Lee Williams, the gun writer for Second Amendment Foundation, and Dan Wass, our normal Wednesday commentator, is going to be dropping by. So come join us for the Weekly Bullet tomorrow. For today, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you